Did you know in the last 10 years, India's outbound tourism doubled to 28.2 million? Did you know the most favored destination of Indian tourists is the UAE? Last year, they accounted for a quarter of the outbound travel. Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host, Anil Padmanabhan. One trend in 2024, I believe, has not got the attention it deserves is the emergence of India as a high growth market source for leisure travel. In fact, in all likelihood, outbound tourists this year will be higher than the record achieved last year. No wonder then the list of countries willing to relax visa requirements for Indian tourists is growing. At the same time, keep in mind the Indian tourist is also growing the influence and power of India in an intangible way, something that we call soft power. Despite this seemingly win-win situation though, a section of policymakers believe that Indian outbound tourists are also draining the country's precious foreign currency resources. Accordingly, they come up with policy tweaks and policy moves to discourage foreign currency payments. An immediate example is TCS, or tax collected at source. The big question is whether red tape will trip up this trend. To answer this and more, I spoke to Guldeep Singh Sahni. He is the co-chairman of FICCI's Outbound Tourism Committee. But before we dive into our conversation with him, here is a short explainer on the itinerant Indian.
Growing per capita income, accompanied by a propensity for international travel, could lead to a wave of outbound Indian travelers. According to McKinsey, if India follows China's outbound travel trajectory, then Indian tourists could make 80 million to 90 million trips a year by 2040. At present, they are under 30 million. Indian wanderlust is taking off. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, India's outbound tourist market was among the fastest growing markets in Asia. India has recently recovered 61% of its pre-pandemic market, with 13 million outbound tourists in 2022. This represents a much quicker recovery than most Asian countries. Where do Indian travelers choose to go? Proximity is a key decision factor. In fact, around 70% of travelers choose nearby destinations, with a travel time of less than 4 hours, and a large Indian diaspora. The Middle East is a destination of choice for around one-third of Indian travelers, closely followed by South Asian destinations. Countries are beginning to take note of this growing trend in outbound tourists and are making it easier for Indians to access visas. For instance, in 2017, Azerbaijan introduced electronic visas within 3 working days of application. Popularity with Indian tourists skyrocketed thereafter, with annual arrivals increasing 5-fold by 2019.
I began by asking Guldeep to shed light on this trend of outbound tourists from India.
I think GDP is one of the key factors that has made a huge difference in outbound travel. Uh, Another thing that is which makes a huge difference in outbound travel is that people want to explore different countries. They want to explore different cultures, different cuisines. They want the millennials who are traveling now are looking at adventure tourism. They want to do self-drive in the other part of the world. You know, they find it that they're more systematic and they are comfortable driving. Uh, Also, the hotel industry, when you look at that, a five-star hotel in India is way expensive than what you look at in Vietnam, or for that matter, even in countries like Georgia, Australia. even USA. You know, you can find accommodation much better at a better price. People want to also, it's no more a luxury outbound. It is more of a experience that people want to give to their children, to themselves, and the knowledge of that country. Uh, all these factors are counting. The airfare, the seat availability is increasing. We can see the airfares are much better. Sometimes, surprisingly, Thailand fare is a cheaper, or Vietnam fare is cheaper than going to Goa or Cochin. So all these factors make huge difference in the travel overseas.
Okay, Guldeep, you mentioned the impact of GDP. Basically, the per capita income has grown pretty sharply in this last decade in a relative term. It's grown from a $1,500 to about $2,700. So, this
Yeah.
combined with a young demography, is it also contributing to this fact? Because earlier generation like ours, for example, we had aspirations, but we didn't have the means. So is it that both have come together for this generation?
For sure, these two things that you mentioned definitely make huge difference. Then look at even the rules that have the government has changed. That earlier, if you remember our times, $300 is what we used to get in FTS. That was the term, and we had to request our family and friends overseas, to accommodate us, or without their hospitality, looking at world was very difficult. Now, with this new regime, where you can carry 3,000 US dollar with you on every trip per person, that makes a huge difference. Sorry, my alarm. So that makes a huge difference. And but definitely for an individual, when the per capita income increases, there's a disposable funds available. People want to experiment various in various ways, and I think that since they live in this country and they do travel at least 2 or 3 times in a year, they do travel within India, because India has got huge numbers traveling within India. Then they do travel at least once in a year or twice in a year overseas. Uh, that is the cause which is creating this number. Yeah.
And what are their favored destinations?
It's a very wide question. You see, if you go backwards and you see people earlier used to go to, say, Thailand or Singapore, or you know Dubai. Those people who have traveled, if you look at the numbers every year, if we say right now, if we are above 30 million, so even if we start with 10 years back, and the total number you keep on adding, so many people have already traveled to these countries, and they have started traveling to further, long haul countries. So to answer that question in a short, I would say Vietnam recently has done very well. Maldives picked up huge numbers when COVID was there, because of the rules and regulations that they had eased out. Then uh, Eastern Europe, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, people are traveling. Europe is another sought after destination. Unfortunately, Europe can take huge numbers, but I think they are unable to cope with the numbers. So the visa restrictions are there. The difficulty of visa is there. Countries which have eased out visa, Australia is doing remarkably well because of the ease of visa, although the visa process is there. And all those countries who have got now visa free arrival for India, that is making a huge difference. People want to, on a weekend, they just want to get up and go and travel. So countries like Europe, Eastern Europe, Far East, of course, in Thailand is taking good numbers. Vietnam has come up very well. Uh, People are now, we can, in our companies now, we can see a lot of inquiries coming for South America also. But voluminous countries are these only, which I've told you. Sri Lanka is doing quite well. Sri Lanka is attracting numbers.
Interesting. So, if you look at it another way, isn't it also reflecting the growing power of the Indian passport?
Sure, sure. When you travel, you must be traveling. Anil, you can see now the Indian passport at the immigration counters is well respected. There are not many questions they ask you. They may ask you just one question, why you here, and then stamp it and then let you go. And now with the things, opening of the border where you don't even have to go to the immigration officer. Your automatic gates are now opening up everywhere in the world. We are doing it in India. I traveled recently, and I was so happy to see that I didn't have to go across the lines. It was just a visa, totally free flow for me, and I think that is also that says the Indian passport is being really welcomed, and it's per se not only Indian passport, the Indian himself, herself are being welcomed. That's a big welcome for us. That's a compliment to us.
Okay, there's another issue, Guldeep, that a lot of us see this as an outgo of foreign exchange. So, does the domestic economy benefit from outbound tourism?
Well, when you ask me that question, whether the domestic gets impacted or not, I would say for sure, because Indians become brand ambassadors when they travel overseas, and that causes inquisitors in those countries, that they become very inquisitive to travel, to know about Indians. And the best way to know about India will be to come to India. So Indians, I think the government of India has to now change the perception that the best way to advertise India is let more and more people travel overseas and they become the brand ambassador. Rather, Indian government should come out with something like giving them a free T-shirt or something that they should wear all over, and then people should ask them questions of where is this place or that place, you know, and it is making a huge difference. It's a hand in hand. It's one of the leg of the travel industry.
Like, I'm curious, does it have linkages within India? Like, say, if so I'm planning a trip to the United States or Europe, so I need to book the tickets, I need to book hotels, so I go to a travel agent, or I need to book some cabs to the airport. So, does that kind of create some kind of linkage, backward linkages, which impact beneficially to the domestic economy?
Anil, you have touched a subject which is very close to my heart, and I am sometimes not welcomed in the corridors of the ministries, because when I go and talk about this, they appreciate what I talk, but then I don't know why they can't put it up. They want us to create a paper in which it is brought into the files. There are 30 million people who travel right now. If that's the figure, it was last year was very close to that. If you look at the number, it must be crossing 30 million now. Look at the seat inventory that these people use. Now, that seat inventory itself causes a number of flights coming into India, which will bring that number of people from overseas also. So that availability is there. Look at the infrastructure which India has made that is being utilized by these people who are traveling overseas. Inbound numbers are already, very less, and they are increasing. And as an Indian, I want that to increase. I would want it to be exponential, rather. That's my desire, and I want to do something about it. But at the same time, when we are talking about outbound, we can't neglect it, because that's the volume which is now creating, that is utilizing the infrastructure, creating, the drivers are being used, the cabs are being used, the kind of revenue that people are paying to the government of India for utilizing of that infrastructure, the aircraft which get parked at our airports, the kind of utility they do. There's a whole lot of things that I can go and talk on this platform, and I think most of the time will go into that. And look at the foreign tourism boards which are here, who come and do these grand parties and advertising and spend their foreign exchange into this country. It's untapped. I have spoken to some of the tourism boards. who have told me they spend about $2 million in this in India for advertising and all these kind of things. They employ people here. The employment they generate, the employment the outbound tourism sector produces is amazing. People do visas, people do planning, people do ticketing, everything. So, in nutshell, for sure, we are the one who are generating lots of revenue and employment for government of India, for India. Sorry.
It's a manifestation of Babugiri, if we can use that word. That it's a mindset
Absolutely.
which we have inherited previously from the license Raj and with the command control economy. Somehow we are not able to shed this mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. Because, I mean, if you look at the figures, ever since TCS has come in, has the number gone down? It has increased. And the Babugiri is not only increasing, the Babugiri's work is also increasing. Our work is increasing. Our spending is now going. I mean, all these laws are coming to benefit the chartered accountants. We are hiring chartered accountants to do our work because it's unmanageable. So, and then the law is interpreted in such a way that their own interpretation is different. And when you go to check with them how the compliances have to be done, their answer is just go to our rule and read it there. So after 4 years, when my company will be shut because of these compliances, it is better that they support me now and support their own slogan of ease of business.
So finally, Guldeep, if I can ask you that this trend is only going to grow going forward of outbound tourists. And you had mentioned earlier that they are kind of operating like brand ambassadors. So if I can take that argument further, can we look at our outbound tourists as soft power, which enhances India's presence worldwide?
Anil, if you travel during Diwali anywhere in the world, Diwali is celebrated. And people know about India's culture now. Our culture is spreading like anything. Our art and cultural institutions are now taking part in every festival all over the world. And we are winning the accolades there. Our cuisine is now sought after. People want to go on tandoori chicken and dal makhani and all those kind of things. Dosa and idli is so common now all over the world. India is spreading like anything. There is a lack of infrastructure that we have here in India, which we need to look into, which is becoming better, but not at that speed at which we want the numbers to come in. There was time when Japanese used to say that we used to go for this Bihar,
God,
all the Buddhist
oh, the
circuit. Yeah,
Buddhist.
they said, yeah, they hated the toilets we sent them in. Sometimes they said the whole country's fields were the toilets. So we have to now we have made toilets, but there's no maintenance in that. They are smelly. They are horrible to use. I won't use it. Leave aside those people. So this is what we need to bring it in. But outbound, definitely, India is making a huge impact wherever we go. As a brand ambassador of India, whether we are spending, during Diwali we travel, or we travel during Holi, or we travel during any other festival. People are now celebrating. There are more Indians all over the world. They are celebrating those cultures and events. So India is becoming famous everywhere, and I'm so proud of it that Indians who live overseas and the outbound tourists who travel over there, they openly talk about India, and people now fight with people when they talk about are there snake charmers there? "Yeah, what are you talking about? Come to my country and see. We don't need to buy any big brand overseas now. It's available here." They go and talk like that. So India is now becoming Indian tourist is now becoming the brand ambassador for India.
You heard Guldeep. India has discovered a new brand ambassador, the outbound tourist. Together with non resident Indians, they are becoming a force multiplier for India's soft power. Unfortunately, like in so many other things, red tape, or babugiri is threatening to trip it up. It's time India's bureaucracy woke up and smelt the coffee, as it were. Attend to the obvious, which is walk the talk on ease of living and ease of doing business. Namaste India is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNews Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please to share your thoughts, ideas and suggestions with us. I'm available on Twitter at Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.